Good morning, everyone. We are from Team 2. My name is Shin Jin Wei, in Korean, Chin Chong Hui. As you can see, our topic today is what is the connection between obesity and cancer? You must have heard about a fat person is more likely to get cancer, but is it real? Is a person who is obese or overweight has a high potential to get cancer? We will reveal the answer soon after. So let's get right into it. In this presentation, we would like to introduce what is obesity, and after that, we will show you guys our research methods and materials. In the main part, we will explain the link of obesity to inflammation and insulin in detail, and the relationship between IGF, insulin growth factor, and cancer. First of all, I would like to ask, what is obesity? Is someone who has a big body size considered as obesity? You can say it like this way. I'm not going to say it's wrong, but the most accurate answer is, according to World Health Organization, overweight and obesity are defined as abnormal or excessive fat accumulation that presents a risk to health. A crude population measure of obesity is the body mass index, as you know, BMI, body mass index, a person's weight in kilograms divided by the square of his or her height in meters. I have put the formula here and you can calculate it by yourself. A person with a BMI equal to or more than 25 is considered overweight. So have you got your BMI value? If your BMI value is more than 25, please be careful because you are more likely to get cancer in the future. So, what is the link between obesity and cancer? According to troubling new findings from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, nearly 4 in 10 United States adults have a body mass index, classifying them as obese. Adult obesity rates have continued to increase steadily and have reached 39.6% in 2015 to 2016. The data on the right-hand side have shown the estimated new cancer case in states for year 2020. We can clearly see that an estimated 276,480 women and 2,620 men will be diagnosed with breast cancer, which makes it the most common cancer diagnosis. There will be also a lot of people diagnosed with prostate cancer and colorectal cancer, which are proved to be obesity-related cancer. Excess weight and obesity have been linked to a number of other chronic diseases, including cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and other metabolic disorders. Excess energy from food and drink is stored in the body as fat in adipose tissue. The amount of adipose tissue in the body varies more from person to person than any other type of tissue, such as muscle, bone, or blood. The size and location of these fat stores vary considerably between populations, between people, and over the course of a person's life. Excess body fat is a cause of a number of chronic diseases and reduces life expectancy. There is strong evidence that being overweight or obese throughout adulthood increases the risk of mouth cancer, esophageal cancer, stomach cancer, pancreatic cancer, gallbladder cancer, liver cancer, colorectal cancer, breast cancer, ovarian cancer, endometrial cancer, prostate cancer, and kidney cancer. In order to get the most accurate information regarding obesity and cancer, we have and we did. We made a lot of effort reading through articles, journal, and internet websites. These are the reference materials with proper citation. Please take a look. In the part of this presentation, I am going to explain the link of obesity with inflammation. Experts believe cancer is largely due to the inflammation caused by visceral fat. Visceral fat? What is it? What is visceral fat? And where is it? Visceral fat is the fat that stores deeply inside our body to protect our internal organs. It is totally different from subcutaneous fat, which is stored beneath our skin. Visceral fat cells are large, and there are a lot of them in a person who is overweight. This excess fat doesn't have much room for oxygen, so blood supply blood supply is compromised. This results in reduced oxygen delivery and cell death. The low oxygen environment triggers inflammation in our body. To make it easier to understand, I have prepared this figure. For example, when you get a deep cut at your finger, the area around the cut becomes red and painful to touch. This minor inflammation around the wounded area helps repair the damaged tissue or let them to undergo apoptosis. After that, new cell division is stimulated so that the new skin cells are produced and the wound can be healed. Same goes to the long-term inflammation caused by excess visceral fat. Damaged cells keep undergoing apoptosis or being repaired, and that cell division keep occurring to repair the damaged tissue. By this way, cancer risk increase because cancer happens when cells reproduce uncontrollably, damaging the cells around them and causing illness. The more cells divide and reproduce, the higher the risk that something will go wrong and a tumor will form. The link between inflammation and insulin. Inflammation caused by obesity can keep the body from properly responding to insulin. This is what we call insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is when cells in your muscles, fat, and liver don't respond well to insulin and cannot use glucose from your blood for energy. When the body doesn't respond to insulin correctly, it produces more insulin to make up for that. The increase in insulin due to insulin resistance triggers an increase the cell division rate, which can lead to cancer. Besides that, more insulin can lead to more available hormone, especially estrogen, which can also increase the cancer risk. And how does more estrogen increase cancer risk? Basically, higher estrogen levels lead to increased cell production, which could result in tumor growth. Estrogen is necessary for the body to function. In women, the ovaries are the main source of estrogen. In men, an enzyme converts testosterone to estrogen, but fat cells in both men and women can also make estrogen. This is why too much estrogen is commonly seen in the obese people. As I mentioned earlier, breast cancer is the most common cancer which is linked to obesity. But why? It's because, let me explain to you. Okay, estrogen is a female hormone made mainly in the ovaries. It's important for sexual development and other body functions. From your first monthly period until menopause, estrogen stimulates normal breast cells. For those who is overweight or obese, the estrogen level is high and therefore more cell growth signals are being produced. Therefore, mitosis and cell proliferation, differentiation occur at a high rate leads to the formation of breast cancer. Okay, yeah. This is a video that briefly summarizes how obesity can result in formation of cancer. So please take a look. Thank you.
Being overweight can cause a number of health problems. But did you know it increases your risk for several types of cancer? There are many ways that excess fat can increase your cancer risk. Here are the 3 main ways. Too much body fat can trigger inflammation. Excess body fat and resulting inflammation causes the body to produce too much insulin, and fat cells produce estrogen. Inflammation, excess insulin, and extra estrogen all cause cells to divide more than usual. This rapid division can result in DNA damage, which can result in cancer. You can reduce your risk of cancer by maintaining a healthy weight. Eat a healthy, plant-based diet with plenty of fruits, vegetables, beans, whole grains, and lean protein. Avoid sugary drinks and foods with added sugar. Stay physically active. Aim for at least 75 minutes of vigorous activity or 150 minutes of moderate activity each week. Even little changes can make a difference. Do what you can at first and take things step by step. And it never hurts to get healthy with a friend.
Hi, I'm the second presenter, Sung-in Seo. Today, I'll be discussing the properties of insulin-like growth factors in obesity and its relation to cancer. This figure depicts how metabolic changes caused by obesity can lead to cancer. As explained by the previous presenter, obesity causes the body to increase its production insulin. Insulin then goes on to inhibit insulin-like growth factor binding proteins, known as IGF-BP1, which circulated in the blood plasma. Because insulin growth factor binding protein 1 has inhibitory effect on insulin-like growth factor, the suppression of IGF-BP1 therefore activates IGF, creating a positive feedback loop as that leads to obesity, as well as increases the chance of getting cancer. In order to comprehend this pathway, we must first understand how insulin-like growth factors work. Insulin-like growth factors, otherwise known as IGFs, are growth stimulatory peptides structurally similar to proinsulin. There are 2 forms of insulin-like growth factor, IGF1 and 2. IGF1 has growth-promoting effects on almost every cell in the body, especially skeletal muscle, cartilage, bone, liver, kidney, and lung cells. In addition to insulin-like effect, IGF1 can also regulate cellular DNA synthesis. IGF-1 mediates its effect of human growth hormone and participates in the regulation of cellular differentiation and apoptosis, and may also play a role in the initiation of cancer formation. Research suggests that higher serum IGF levels are associated with increased risk of several common cancers. IGF works in concert with insulin growth factor binding protein, which will be referred to as IGF-BP1, to regulate the cell's metabolic processes. IGF-BP1 is a protein expressed in the liver that circulates in the blood plasma, binding both insulin and IGF-1. This protein is important in the cell migration and metabolism and regulation of IGF activity. High IGF-BP1 levels bind IGF-1 to reduce insulin-like activity of IGF-1 on metabolism. We've discussed insulin-like growth factor and insulin-like growth factor binding protein. Then, how do they affect obesity? Insulin is a major suppressor of IGF-BP1 as it decreases the amount of protein at the mRNA level. This change in IGF-BP1 concentration directly correlates to an increase in free IGF-1. This is presumably the result of hyperinsulinemia caused by obesity, a condition in which there are excessive levels of insulin circulating the blood related to level glucose. Therefore, the overall increase in insulin ultimately leads to an increase of IGF-1. Knowing this, how does this relation of increased insulin and IGF caused by obesity lead to cancer? It turns out that IGF activates the downstream pathway of mTORC1, which is essential for the survival and growth of normal cells, but also contribute to initiation and progression of cancer. This will be discussed in the following slide. mTORC1 acts as a nutrient and energy sensor as and is responsible for activating the translation of proteins. This regulation of the mTORC1 pathway have been implicated in the development of obesity and obesity-related conditions such as type 2 diabetes. Recent research has shown that excessive nutrient intake can promote signaling through the mTOR pathway and possibly cause changes to cellular metabolism that could accelerate obesity-related cancer. The previous slide we defined how mTORC1 is affected by obesity. Then, what is mTORC1? mTORC1, short for mammalian target of rapamycin complex 1, is a very important protein complex that functions to integrate nutrient signals with hormonal signals to control cell growth and proliferation, as well as protein and fat synthesis. Looking further into mTOR pathway, we can also see how it also coincides with PI3K and AKT. These intracellular signaling pathways are very important in the regulation of the cell cycle and affect cell growth and proliferation. This figure shows how IGF affect mTOR and the other pathway. IGF-1 activates the PI3K and AKT signaling cascade, which subsequently activates mTOR. Overall, these signaling cascades and pathways act as critical checkpoints by which cells sense and decode changes in energy status in order to undergo cell division. So to summarize what we have learned so far, first, obesity causes hyperinsulinemia and deactivated IgF binding protein. As I explained, IgF binding protein is an inhibitor of IGF, so IGF-1 in turn becomes activated. Increased level of IGF send prolonged signals to mTORC1 by the PI3K AKT pathway. Eventually, this regulation of mTORC1 promotes tumor growth and cancer progression. An example of this cascade effect can be seen in type 2 diabetes. Also, high glycemic load food such as milk and cheese can accelerate this serious effect. Within a study conducted over a period of 6 years with 32,826 nurses, it had taken blood sample and followed up them to prove the relation between IGF-1 and IGF binding protein 1 and risk of colorectal cancer. As you can see in the figure, the x-axis is IGF-BP1 C-peptide and ratio IGF-1 to IGF-BP3 per each tertile, and the y-axis is the related risk of colorectal cancer. The third tertile, which is the highest IGF-1 to IGF-BP3 ratio, shows the highest risk of cancer. The results of this paper indicate that the highest level of IGF-1 are associated with 2.5 times greater risk of colorectal cancer. I mentioned that type 2 diabetes is one example of how obesity can cause cancer. That is because diabetes is also associated with hyperinsulinemia, which greatly increases the likelihood of obesity as well as cancer. In the figure from Japan Diabetes Society, people with diabetes likely get cancer compared to non-diabetics. Even we can see the risk of liver cancer can be 2 times bigger than non-diabetes. This slide shows the evidence for the association of diabetes with cancer. This table is a summary of a few types of research. RR in the third column means related risk. Liver cancer shows around 2.5 times higher cancer risk and almost 2 times higher for pancreas cancer. Therefore, diabetes definitely affects cancer risk. This video visualizes what we have talked about so far.
Insulin-like growth factor 1 and 2, also known as IGF1 and 2, are two ligands implicated in the development and progression of numerous forms of cancer. They mediate their effects by binding to their receptor, IGF1R. Once active, IGF1R can trigger the activation of the PI3 kinase AKT signaling cascade, a pathway that has been implicated in cell survival and in the prevention of apoptosis or cell death. Activation of IGF1R can also trigger the activation of the MAP kinase signaling cascade, a pathway that has been implicated in cell proliferation and growth. Therefore, it is of no surprise that the IGF1R signaling pathway is associated with the development of various forms of cancer due to its role in cell survival, growth, and proliferation. Increased expression of IGF1, 2, and IGF1R have all been correlated with the presence as well as the severity of various forms of cancer. Activation of this pathway has been correlated with resistance against well-established anti-cancer agents, suggesting the overexpression of these proteins might serve as an escape mechanism. In the case of IGF1 and 2, genetic studies have shown that the presence of these ligands is altered and its expression and activity is elevated at the protein level for certain forms of cancer or as a response to certain conventional therapies. Such changes have been correlated with poor survival rates and resistance to chemotherapy. Research has also shown that increased circulating levels of IGF1 and 2 positively correlate with disease severity and negatively correlate with long-term survival rates in patients with cancer. In light of extensive research linking insulin-like growth factor signaling to cancer, several approaches have been developed in an attempt to inhibit this pathway. This includes developing antibodies and tyrosine kinase inhibitors targeting IGF1R. Such antibodies have reached advanced stages of clinical development. Alternatively, targeting IGF1 and 2 rather than their receptor has emerged as an alternative approach to inhibit the insulin-like growth factor signaling pathway. Boehringer Ingelheim is currently developing BI836845, a monoclonal antibody which is designed to bind and to neutralize the function of both IGF1 and 2 ligands.
In preclinical models, this antibody has shown the potential to inhibit the proliferation of cells derived from various cancers. In mouse models of cancer, BI836845 has also shown the potential to inhibit tumor growth. This highlights the potential of inhibiting both IGF1 and 2 for the treatment of cancer.
It's time to wrap up. We mainly talked about two ways that obesity causes cancer. One is the relation of obesity with inflammation, insulin, and estrogen production. Inflammation that occurs due to obesity causes the pancreas to produce more insulin. Furthermore, extra fat cells also make estrogen. Too much insulin and estrogen cause cells to divide more than usual. The other topic was insulin-like growth factor and cancer. Within this topic, I explained obesity can increase the level of IGF1, and this leads to cancer and gain fat. And then we have looked into type 2 diabetes as an example. After our presentation, are you afraid being overweight since obesity can lead to cancer? Do you wonder what you can do to stay away from the obesity and cancer? There are several steps you can take to prevent obesity. First, stay active. Aim for 150 minutes for moderate activity or 75 minutes of vigorous activity a week. Second, eat a healthy diet. Simply, eat more vegetables and less animal protein. Third, limit your alcohol consumption. And then, lastly, get plenty of rest so you can stay healthy. This is pretty much of it, and thank you for listening. If you have any questions, please leave it on the Q&A section in iCampus. All your questions are welcome. Thank you.